There is a phone call that changes everything. The kind of call where you see the name on your screen and your entire body goes cold because you know. You just know that after years of silence, after years of being told you were nothing, they're calling because they need something. They need you. My name is Dr. Maya Patel. I am 34 years old. I am a cardiothoracic surgeon at a major teaching hospital. I perform open heart surgeries. I save lives. I make $400,000 a year. And 12 years ago, my parents told me I would be nothing without them. They told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life, that I would fail, that I would come crawling back begging for their help, that I would regret ever walking away from them. They were wrong about everything. Except one thing. I did come back. Not crawling, not begging, but I came back. Because 6 months ago, my father called me after 12 years of complete silence. 12 years of no birthdays, no holidays, no acknowledgement that I even existed. He called because he needed money. A lot of money. And the way I responded to that call is something I think about every single day. Stay with me, because this is not just a story about revenge. This is a story about what you owe to people who gave you life, but tried to take away your future. Building the foundation, specific and cultural. I need to tell you about my parents to help you understand what happened. My parents immigrated to this country from India when they were in their 20s. My father, Raj, became an accountant. My mother, Priya, worked as an administrative assistant and then stayed home after I was born. They worked hard, really hard. They saved every penny. They bought a modest house in a good school district. They planned every detail of their lives with precision. And they planned every detail of my life, too. From the time I was 5 years old, I knew exactly what my future was supposed to look like. I would study hard, get perfect grades, go to a good university, study business or computer science, get a stable corporate job, marry a nice Indian boy from a good family, have children, take care of my parents in their old age. That was the path, the only acceptable path. And for most of my childhood, I followed it perfectly. I was the model daughter. Straight A's, academic competitions, scholarships. I was accepted to every university I applied to. But somewhere around age 16, something shifted inside me. I became interested in medicine. Not business, not computer science. Medicine. I volunteered at a hospital. I shadowed doctors. I watched surgeons work and felt something click inside me. This was what I wanted. Not because my parents wanted it, but because I wanted it. I told my parents at dinner one night during my senior year of high school. I said, I want to go to medical school. I want to become a surgeon. My father put down his fork. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, disappointment mixed with something else, anger. He said, no. Just no, like I had suggested something obscene. I said, what do you mean no? I have the grades, I have the test scores, I can get into medical school. My father said, medical school is 12 years of training, 12 years of debt, 12 years of your life wasted when you could be earning money and supporting this family. My mother nodded. She said, Maya, we didn't come to this country and work this hard for you to become a doctor. Doctors work terrible hours. You'll never have a family. You'll be in debt forever. I said, but it's what I want. My father's face went hard. He said, what you want doesn't matter. We are your parents. We know what's best. You will study business. You will get a good job. You will do what we say. I felt something break inside me that night. I said quietly, "What if I don't?" My father stood up from the table. He said, "Then you are not our daughter." I thought he was exaggerating. I thought it was just anger talking. I was wrong. The breaking point, detailed and painful. I applied to medical school without telling them. I took my MCAT in secret. I used my school counselor's address for all correspondence. I applied for scholarships and federal loans. I did everything quietly, carefully, building an escape route they couldn't see. I got accepted to 3 medical schools. Good ones. I chose the one furthest from home, a state university with a strong program and a scholarship that would cover most of tuition. I would still need loans for living expenses, books, fees, a lot of loans, but I could do it. I could do it without them. 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave for medical school, I told my parents. I waited until after dinner. My hands were shaking. I said, "I need to tell you something." They looked up, waiting. I said, "I applied to medical school. I got in. I got a scholarship. I'm leaving in 2 weeks." The silence that followed was the loudest sound I've ever heard. Then my father stood up. He didn't yell, he didn't shout. His voice was completely calm, and that made it worse. He said, "If you walk out that door to go to medical school, you are not welcome back. We will not be your daughter. We will not pay for anything. We will not speak to you. You will be dead to us." My mother was crying quietly, but she didn't disagree with him. She just cried. I looked at both of them. I said, "I'm doing this, with or without your blessing." My father said, "Then you're doing it without us. Pack your things. You have until the end of the week." I thought he would change his mind. I thought my mother would intervene. I thought somebody would stop this from happening. Nobody did. I packed everything I owned into 2 suitcases and 4 boxes. I loaded them into my 10-year-old Honda that I had bought with money from my part-time job. The morning I left, my mother wouldn't look at me. My father had already gone to work. I stood in the doorway of the house I had grown up in and said, "I love you both. I hope you'll understand one day." My mother said nothing. I drove away, and for 12 years, I heard nothing from them. Not a call, not an email, not a birthday card, nothing. It was like I had died, like I had never existed. I need to tell you what those 12 years looked like, because they were not easy. They were brutal. Medical school is hard enough when you have support, when you have parents who can help with emergencies, who can send you money when your car breaks down, who can be a safety net when everything goes wrong. I had none of that. I had myself, and about $200,000 in student loans by the time I finished. First year of medical school, I lived in the cheapest apartment I could find. It had roaches, the heat didn't work half the winter. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches for most meals. I studied 18 hours a day. I had no social life. I had no money for anything except books, rent, and food. In my second year, I got a small research grant. It paid $3,000. I cried when I got that check. I bought a winter coat that actually kept me warm. Third and fourth year, clinical rotations. I worked in hospitals, learning, watching, and assisting. I slept 4 hours a night. I missed the holidays. I had no one to call on my birthday. I thought about my parents every single day. I wondered if they ever thought about me, if they regretted their choice, if they were proud or still angry. I graduated from medical school in the top 10% of my class. I matched into a competitive surgical residency at a teaching hospital. Nobody from my family was there. I sat in the audience, watching other graduates hug their parents, take photos, and celebrate. I sat alone. But I had done it. Residency was 5 more years of hell, 100-hour weeks, learning to operate, learning to make life and death decisions, learning to function on no sleep and high stress. I was good at it. Really good. My attending physicians noticed. They pushed me toward cardiothoracic surgery, the hardest specialty, the longest training, but the most rewarding. I said yes. 2 more years of fellowship, learning to operate on hearts, learning to hold someone's life in my hands and not shake. By the time I finished all my training, I was 32 years old. I was $280,000 in debt from loans. I had no family, no support system, just myself and the knowledge I had earned. And then I got a job. A real job. Attending cardiothoracic surgeon at a major hospital. Starting salary, $350,000 a year. Within 2 years, I was making $400,000. I was paying down my loans aggressively. I bought a small condo. I started building an actual life. I thought about my parents, sometimes, less than I used to. The wound had scarred over. It still hurt if I pressed on it, but I had learned not to press. I assumed I would never hear from them again. I was wrong. 6 months ago, my phone rang at 7 in the morning. I was at the hospital. I had just finished a 6-hour surgery. I was exhausted, drinking coffee, reviewing post-op notes. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. A man's voice, older, tentative. He said, "Maya?" I knew immediately. I hadn't heard that voice in 12 years, but I knew it instantly. "Dad?" Silence, then, "Yes, it's me." I sat down. My hands started shaking. I said, "Why are you calling?" Another long pause. Then he said, "Your mother and I need to talk to you. It's important." I felt my chest tighten. I said, "Is someone dying?" "No," he said quickly. "No, nothing like that. But we need help. Financial help." And there it was. After 12 years of silence, after disowning me, after telling me I was dead to them, they needed money. I said, very calmly, "What kind of financial help?" He explained, slowly, with obvious discomfort. He had lost his job 2 years ago. At 63 years old, he couldn't find another one. They'd been living on savings. Those savings were now gone. They were 3 months behind their mortgage. The bank was starting foreclosure proceedings. They needed $40,000. Immediately. I sat there holding the phone, processing what I was hearing. I said, "Let me make sure I understand. You haven't spoken to me in 12 years. You disowned me. You told me I was dead to you. And now you're calling because you need money." His voice got smaller. "Maya, we had nowhere else to turn." I felt something cold settle in my chest. I said, "What about the extended family? Aunts, uncles, cousins, all those people who told me I was a disgrace for choosing medical school?" He said, "We've asked everyone. Nobody has this kind of money." I laughed. Actually laughed. A bitter sound that surprised even me. I said, "But I do. The daughter you disowned because she wanted to be a doctor? I have the money you need?" "Yes," he said quietly. I said, "Were you ever going to call me if you didn't need money? Were you ever going to apologize?" Long silence. Then he said, "I don't know." At least he was honest. I said, "I need to think about this. I'll call you back." I hung up, and I sat in that hospital break room for an hour just thinking. I want to be honest about what went through my mind. Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to tell him exactly what I thought of parents who abandon their child and then come back only when they need something. Part of me wanted revenge, wanted them to feel even a fraction of what I felt when they told me I was dead to them. But another part of me, the part that had spent 12 years learning to save lives, to see people at their most vulnerable, to understand that humans are complicated and flawed and sometimes do terrible things out of fear, that part of me felt something else. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. I called my father back 3 days later. I said, "I'll give you the money." His relief was audible. He started thanking me, his voice breaking. I cut him off. I said, "I'm not finished. I'll give you the money, but there are conditions." He went quiet, waiting. I said, "First, this is a loan, not a gift. You will pay me back. We'll set up a payment plan. Even if it's $100 a month, you will pay it back." He agreed immediately. I said, "Second, you will go to family therapy with me. I will pay for it, but you will go. We will talk about what happened. We will try to understand each other. I'm not promising we'll have a relationship, but we'll try." He was quieter for longer this time. Then he said, "Yes, we'll do that." I said, "Third, you will never, ever tell me that my career choice was wrong. You have to acknowledge that I made the right decision for me. You don't have to be proud, but you have to accept it." His voice was thick when he said, "Maya, I am proud. I just didn't know how to say it." That surprised me. I didn't expect him to say that. I said, "We have a lot to talk about, Dad. A lot of hurt to work through. This doesn't fix everything, but it's a start." He said, "Thank you. Thank you for being a better person than we were to you." I wired them $45,000 the next day. The extra $5,000 was for immediate expenses I knew they'd have. We started therapy 2 weeks later. It's been 6 months now. We go every other week. It's hard, really hard. There are sessions where my mother cries the entire time, sessions where my father can't speak because he's so ashamed, sessions where I'm so angry I want to walk out. But we keep showing up. My parents are paying me back, $150 a month. It will take years, but they're doing it. We have dinner once a month now, awkward dinners where we're still learning how to talk to each other. My mother asked me about my work last month. Actually asked, actually listened. She said, "I don't understand most of what you do, but I can see it matters to you." It's not much, but it's something. If you're listening to this and you have parents who rejected you, who told you you were making a mistake, who cut you off for choosing your own path, I want to say something to you. You don't owe them anything. Not your success, not your money, not your forgiveness. If they come back after years of silence asking for help, you have every right to say no. You have every right to protect yourself from people who hurt you, even if those people are your parents. I chose to help mine, but that was my choice, and it came with boundaries, conditions, requirements. I didn't just hand the money and pretend the past didn't happen. I made